Hey, what's going on, everybody? I know you guys haven't seen me in a long time, but I'm here. I've simply been living life. You understand what I'm saying? I've been living my life, going through the ups and downs, the highs and lows for a while, so that I can, have something to talk about content wise. So I have enough content to talk about for like 3 years now from the things that I've been through during my hiatus. But first of all, what I want to talk about today in my first video since I've returned is basically the drama that's been going on in the YouTube world. I'm going to specifically focus on the drama that's been happening in New Orleans because if you aren't aware, New Orleans is in the algorithm very tough right now, very hard right now. Not because of some rising musician or anything like that, but because of a podcaster named OG Murda, who grew up in the same neighborhood as the rapper BG, one of my favorites. I live in Richmond, Virginia. We've always been one of the biggest markets for Southern artists and Southern labels. So Cash Money always used to come here to do tours and stuff like that. Back in the day, they sold some of the most records in any state in Virginia, specifically Richmond, because we are one of their biggest markets. And OG Murda grew up in the same neighborhood as BG, VL13, Valence and Magnolia, and he is basically, he has a very, very fiery personality. He doesn't care what he says. He's eccentric. He has no filter. And also Baby from Cash Money grew up in that neighborhood. You know what I mean? And Terrence Gangster Williams, he's very, very popular on the internet right now. He did 27 years in federal prison. He snitched on some unalivings that occurred, but his friends did them. But when he snitched, his friends were unalive themselves. So he told on unalive people to become free. Anyway, this is Tech from UNLV. He deleted the video that he posted because he probably was overthinking, and he probably was in his feelings when he posted it. And when he realized that video was going to grow legs and travel all over the world within days, somebody probably told him, hey, delete that video because we have a good relationship with Cash Money. And if you don't know, UNLV was one of the premier artists of the original Cash Money before they signed their deal with Universal in 1998. They accumulated so many sales in the southern region that they contributed to Cash Money's catalog that generated millions of dollars while they were independent, which allowed them to get the trust of Universal to sign for $100 million or whatever they signed for. But so Tech removed the video, but this is his channel. Tech, he's a part of UNLV, Uptown Ninjas Living Violent. So they were out in the mid 90s, and the Hot Boys came out basically in like 97. So UNLV was like the Hot Boys of the mid 90s on Cash Money. They had some disagreements about finances and they left, but they were hot, and when Cash Money signed to Universal for $100 million or whatever, the reason they were able to get that deal and the reason they were able to secure an 80-20 deal, meaning Cash Money got 80% of the profits and Universal only got 20%. The only reason they were able to get that deal is because, first of all, Cash Money did a lot. They're intelligent businessmen, Baby and Slim, the two brothers who run a company, who founded the company. Second of all, they were generating millions of dollars locally. And when I say locally, I don't mean just in New Orleans or Louisiana where they come from. I'm talking about the southern region in general. They were touring. They had tour buses. They were a lucrative touring act, and their CDs and tapes were selling off the shelves all throughout the South. So basically, Cash Money was worth probably $20 million at least before they signed to Universal. And they really didn't need Universal. Baby and Sugar Slim, the two brothers who founded the company, were millionaires years before they signed the deal with Universal, and they could have retired comfortably being independent, But Universal allowed them to have a national presence. And you know, it led to Drake and Nicki Minaj, and you know, the rebirth of Lil Wayne in the 2010s or whatever. So yeah, UNLV was one of the artists that contributed to the catalog of millions and millions of tapes and CDs sold in the southern region, you know, along with other artists. Okay, so he was a part of UNLV Tech Nine, along with Lil Ya and a guy named Yella Boy. Now, Yella Boy was murdered in 1997, and there's always been a conspiracy theory surrounding his murder. And that conspiracy theory was that Yella Boy was angry at Birdman, Baby, because Baby, you know, didn't want to pay him or the group their just due. And Baby does have a reputation for not paying artists and things in that nature. And it was true. He owed UNLV a lot of money. They took him to court and they won. But Yella Boy was a real street guy. And Yella Boy was not willing to just wait for the court date to settle the situation. That's Yella Boy. You understand what I'm saying? He had a mouthful of golds. He was light skinned. He was a live wire. And he was best friends with, you know, the guy who I just showed you, Tech Nine from UNLV. Now, after Baby's house was allegedly shot up by Yella Boy, he was murdered. And since he was murdered, the conspiracy theory went from the streets to the internet that Baby put a contract on him because he's not to be played with. And on BG's 1999 album, Chopper City in the Ghetto, Baby basically was, you know, he wasn't specifically talking about anyone as an individual, but he was just saying, you know, Baby, he said some lyrics because, you know, he raps sometimes. Baby put that boy, Baby the one responsible for putting that contract on that boy head. Baby the one responsible for making that boy dead. If you play with me, I'm going to put 100 G's on your head. So, you know, Baby was probably just talking trash in general, but people, you know, were like, okay, he's speaking about real life situations. Okay? Now, this is UNLV. You know, that's Yella Boy in the middle. That's Tech Nine on the side, the guy who went on, you know, who has a YouTube channel that I just showed you. That's Lil Ya. He has a YouTube channel as well. Very laid back, very cool, very business minded. And, yeah. So Tech Nine basically created a video just like I'm creating now in the comfort of his room or studio or whatever, just like I am now. And he said, yes, it's true. Baby was directly involved with the unaliving of Yella Boy. And that was my partner, that was my best friend. I brought him to Cash Money. You know, I taught him how to rap and all of these things. And I'm here to confirm it to our fan base and to anybody who likes UNLV that he did it. And he didn't do it himself. He got Hot Bezo to do it. Now, Hot Bezo, he's another figure out of New Orleans. He's from the Magnolia Projects. And he's like Baby's right-hand man. He's been hanging, you know, he's a part of the original Hot Boys clique, a younger member. The Hot Boys were a street clique, a street organization. The Hot Boys, as the rap entity, was based off the Hot Boys who were in the streets. Now, Hot Bezo was one of the guys that was in the original Hot Boy clique, but he was like one of the younger guys, you know what I'm saying? That's Hot Bezo right there, and that's Soulja Slim right there. That's a photo probably from like 99 or 2000. That's, this is Hot Bezo more recently, you know, and this is another picture of Hot Bezo. So, Hot Bezo, according to Tech Nine, was, you know, the one who unalived Yella Boy. And Tech Nine said that he couldn't retaliate because he was so fully immersed into his drug addiction that all he cared about was drugs, even more than avenging the death of his friend. And now that he's sober, that's one of his biggest regrets. And he said he knows for a fact that Hot Bezo did it because, you know, a gentleman who was, you know, Yella Boy was he got murdered inside his vehicle. So on the night of his murder, Hot Bezo was in the vehicle with him, and another gentleman who was mutual friends with all of these people I named. The mutual friend was kicked out of the vehicle by Hot Bezo. That Hot Bezo instructed Yella Boy, or recommended Yella Boy, to put him out the car and made up some reason why he shouldn't be with them because they got some important business to handle and he shouldn't be there. And then Yella Boy ended up murdered. And he did, the streets talk, and he did some more fact checking. Now that's crazy. It's crazy because over the years, we knew about the financial struggles that UNLV had with Cash Money. Everybody knows that Cash Money doesn't pay their artists properly, and they have to be taken to court in order to get properly compensated. But for someone who was directly involved with Cash Money for over 35 years, who was a part of an original Cash Money group that put Cash Money on the map and helped them secure their original 1998 Universal major deal, and for this individual to just say, hey, everything is true that you guys heard about, Baby is responsible for doing that, and Hot Bezo did it. That's amazing, and that's why Tech Nine took the video down. See, Tech Nine is a hothead out the group. He doesn't care. He's a gangster. He has no filter. He just came home from prison, and even if he didn't just come home from prison, he's the kind of guy who people have to monitor and say, man, take that down. And he felt pressured. I would personally, if I were him, I would keep it up. But he probably got pressured to take it down because Lil Ya, his group mate, is his best friend. Is his best friend as well, and he probably convinced him that it's not good for business. And yeah. And so, all right. So the second thing I want to discuss is the OG Murda situation. Okay, so OG Murda, he's been on the internet for quite some time. That's one of the major criticisms about him. Terrence Gangster Williams, the only thing that him or anyone who his detractors can say is, you've been on the internet for 10 years and you never picked up any traction, you're a junkie. That's all they can say about him. But he's picking up momentum and motion and more fans day by day. I've been following him for about 5 years. He disappeared for a couple years, and this year he returned to the internet. And he's doing better than ever. Yes, it's true. He's been on the internet for a long time, and he's been working on his brand for a long time. But now he's viral and he's successful, and he's making a lot of money. And when somebody is successful because now people are mentioning him by name. The No Rap Cap podcast, which I love because I love Misdemeanor and PNC, which is a classic New Orleans group, they would talk trash about him. They would make a video specifically talking trash about him, but they would not mention his name. Instead of saying OG Murda, they would say Old Girl Murda. And BG, he would never mention. He would never mention his name. But now he's making it known who he's talking about more clearly. He still hasn't mentioned his name, but he's making it clearer who he's talking about. And that's because these people don't want to promote him for free. They don't want to mention his name because they don't want people to run to his YouTube channel to help make him money. And I don't get it. These guys are always saying people hating on me. I'm focused on the bag, but you can't mention this guy's name so that he can get a few dollars. You know what I mean? And you guys all know him. Why not say his name and help him make some money, or just mention his name? Period. To me, that's kind of fake. But yeah, OG Murda's picking up a lot of steam, and he's reckless, he's very entertaining, and I gotta say, the only people out of New Orleans who I've seen show genuine love to him are the Magnolia Twins. The Magnolia Twins actually said in their live the other day, we love OG Murda. We think he's very entertaining, and we study him because we're trying to be successful on YouTube, and we're studying all the greats, and we consider him a great. And that's something that OG Murda needs to be aware of. And lastly, Saint Laz, he has a YouTube channel that focuses on prison and criminal historical legendary content. He has a great page. He also is very intelligent and gives great life advice. He segues prison and criminal stories into lessons about life that anybody can relate to, not just former criminals or inmates. He's picking up a lot of steam, and this channel is hotter than it's been in a long time because he has a beef with Maino right now. And it all started because they both were doing a feature for Talib Kweli, a legendary artist. And it was a hot day in New York, and the weather, it was like 90 degrees outside. And Saint Laz showed up to the video set with a Nike t-shirt on with some New Balance shoes, and Maino recorded him secretly at the video shoot and then posted it on his Instagram stories and made fun of him and said, look at this guy wearing Nike with New Balances. Basically trying to clown him for wearing Nike with New Balances because it's lame to do so, according to Maino. And what Maino fails to understand is you can't, first of all, Maino is 53, St. Laz is 49, Talib Kweli is in his 50s. For you to be a cultural influence in the hip hop community at 53, and you're making fun of somebody because they're wearing two brands that you think don't coincide or go parallel with each other is stupid. People should be able to wear whatever they want, especially when they're 49 years old and they're taking care of grown adult children. Maino had on, according to St. Laz, a whole military combat outfit, long sleeve military camo pants, a long sleeve military camo thermal, a long sleeve military camo jacket, and some he had on some boots, some St. Laz called them Puss in Boots, like from Shrek, Puss in Boots. They're just really tall boots, and basically St. Laz is rising in the YouTube algorithm, and his channel is picking up steam, and he's going to be successful, more successful than he's been ever before, simply because Maino jumped out there and showed himself off to be the hater that he really is. In life, when it comes to Maino especially, he follows the format of being a bully. It's worked for him his entire career, according to him, but nowadays it doesn't work, especially when you go against a guy like St. Laz. When you go against a guy like St. Laz, you have to understand he's intelligent, his mouthpiece is crazy, he's very good at telling jokes and ranking, and at the same time, he makes a lot of sense. You said that St. Laz has been rapping for 20 years and he's never been successful. Well, he tried. He never gave up. He likes rap as an art form. He's passionate about it. He respects it. He tried for 20 years and he didn't make it to the commercial mainstream level. And he has no qualms about that. He admits it all the time. As a matter of fact, he's one of the few people on the internet or in the rap industry period who admits that. And he actually explains why that happened and gives other artists advice from the perspective of an artist who struggled and failed to make it to the commercial level. And that's genuine information that people should be paying for, but he's giving it out for free. You understand what I'm saying? He's using his life experiences to make money on YouTube and to also educate people. I mean, everybody's not going to make it to the NBA. Everybody's not going to make it to the top level in rap, And what you don't understand is this, Maino. People are going to find out who St. Laz is simply because the algorithm is leading them, your videos to him. They're going to like the way he talks. They're going to look at him as an intelligent person who's comfortable in his own skin, and they're going to figure out this guy has a lot of good information that nobody else is teaching. Let me follow this guy. He's actually explaining why a person can get into the music industry and for 20 years not find success. So maybe if I listen to him, I can learn some things, and maybe I can make a decision to not pursue music or pursue music, learning the lessons that he's teaching. So yeah, man, that's one thing people have to understand. The lesson of this video is this: when you bully people, you have to understand that you're representing the 1%. Most people out there are normal people who work, who are struggling to achieve their goals. Everybody's not a part of the 1% who has their goals reached already. Everybody's not balling out of control, rich millionaires. So when you're on the internet and you're putting down people who are representatives of the normal, everyday person, you're isolating yourself, and you're putting yourself in the box of being somebody who thinks that they are godlike. And you're limiting your audience. You are basically insulting 90% of the people out there who could potentially be your fan base. And you're going to put yourself in a position where the negativity that you put out there towards that person is going to give them fuel to be successful. So yeah, peace. I'm going to be making content on a regular basis. I've been through a lot, ups and downs, very good times, very bad times, and I've got a lot of content to speak about. Later on tonight, I'm going to make a video speaking about a hit and run that I beat twice. The first time I beat it, the guy got locked up for perjury. Second time I beat it in a jury trial. And he hit me. you know, and it was a very emotional time, and I learned a lot from that. So yeah, I've got a lot to talk about. Peace.